back at WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. I certainly have a positive story to tell you about this week. We will be gathering on Friday as part of the Maryland Crab Cake Tour in Timonium. It's all brought to you by the Maryland Lottery. Let yourself play. We'll be at Nick's Grandstand Grill, having a Timonium crab cake via Cross Street. Having a feeling that Dennis Koulatsos to spend a little bit of time down at Cross Street over the course of time. We'll be there from 2 until 5 on Friday afternoon, telling neighborhood stories. We've been doing that. We were at Mother's last week with all female business owners. It was serendipity, as it was serendipity on Monday night, as Lamar Jackson did the thing that they said he couldn't do, Dennis Koulatsos. They said he couldn't come back from 3 touchdowns down. The passing game, it'll never be there. The stats, as I tweeted in the aftermath, I called it Superman stuff. I mean, like literally, we'll never see anything like that again.
Where to begin, Nestor? Insane, right? That's the word that comes to mind. And Lamar Jackson can't throw the deep ball. Check. Lamar Jackson not accurate. Check. Lamar Jackson can't throw outside the hash marks. Check. I mean, the kid has checked all the boxes, set a single game passing record for the Ravens since 1996. The running back that couldn't throw the ball, Nestor, came back from 18 points with 18 minutes to go. Who does that?
Well, Lamar Jackson did it. And now that we've seen it done, it sort of changes the complexion of the whole season with where the Chiefs are. But here come the Chargers, right? And Dennis, I'll have to give it to you because like we talked about the Vegas game about what if, and if it would have gone the other way and they were losing to the Chiefs most of the night here and they needed a 66-yard field goal. On Monday night, they needed Calais Campbell's finger, right? Just on the gimpy kicker. Who knows where the ball would have gone, but it looked like it would have had the trajectory to have been a second score, and that would have been the end of it. They really have played with fire throughout all of this, but they've played with their hair on fire. And I think there's times in both of our lives where the stress makes you perform better, given that condition. And to see the team through all of these injuries, all of these problems, fall down 3 touchdowns, not to anybody, to the team that you admitted last week that you still hate the most, although I've buried that. I thought I buried it till I showed up at the stadium and I saw people wearing jerseys and I'm like, it got to me. It got to me enough that I stopped out on Russell Street and tweeted. Like literally, I'm like, I had that old feeling again for a moment. And then we're getting our ass kicked. And then the old feeling I had, the one where I was sitting in the window here sulking after the field goal game back in 2006. I saw the little white helmet and the horseshoe sitting there with Luke, and I was pissed at him for saying the Ravens were going to win by 2 touchdowns. So Luke and I had it out all night. But some observations for you. You're going to be here Thursday from 3 until 5. A lot of times on your show, you let everybody else observe. This has been sort of transformational. I mean, it's an unbelievable unfolding story that this stadium right here, the purple, we're right in the middle of it.
Nestor, 5 minutes in, I had to remind the Raven flock that there's still a lot of time left in the game. It's a 60-minute game and then some, as we saw Monday night, right? So you can't give up on a team. These games are designed to go down to the wire with parity and with the rules favoring the offense. So to me, it was no surprise that the Ravens came back. But to hear the fans say, listen, fire Wink and Harbs doesn't know what he's doing and then the play calling for Roman stinks, all that stuff goes away when a team comes away with an epic victory. But like you at halftime, I had this visual of Bob Irsay from down below looking up above and laughing at us. And I'm going, no, I hate the franchise. I hate the organization. And I'm thinking there's no way we can lose to these clowns because like Luke, I thought we would have a double-digit victory. And I'm thinking we're going to be 3-2, tied with the Bengals and the Browns. And I'm like, you know what? We should be 4-1. My biggest concern, though, Nestor, was not the Ravens' offense would score, was could the defense keep the Colts from scoring, right? So I was hoping that the defense would make enough stops where it would give the offense a chance to go down the field and score. And they have some work to do. They have to draft some defensive players in the 2022 draft. They have 10 picks. I would spend 9 or 8 of them on the defense, maybe draft a tackle or guard high with the other picks, but I'm telling you, they've got to be able to stop the other team, or this is what's going to bite them this year. It's not going to be the offense.
Dennis Koulatsos joining us here. He is the Koulatsos Show. He's also over Coons Ford Security Boulevard, selling cars, pre-loved, and purple ones too. He'll find you a purple one if you want one. He'll be here Thursday from 3 until 5, driving you home on the Dennis Koulatsos Show. And, of course, on Sunday, in sort of the reason you loved Sunday radio was pregame. We're actually like playing a 1 o'clock game this week. I want to go back to the fourth quarter. And you mentioned the defense and whether they did enough or can do enough or can stop the bleeding, and the back end linebackers aren't good enough. Jury's out on Patrick Queen and, a Harris, all those guys, right? Passer, I mean, look, he doesn't just flash. He's going to be a great player. I would just say this, that finger of Calais Campbell and that stop there and the way the Colts not only kicked our ass and then the comeback, but now they're going down the field taking the air out of the ball and doing what Jamal Lewis in the crowd would have been proud on Haloti Nada night to see them do. And yet they did make a stop. They did force a field goal. Then they blocked the field goal. So there is a little bit of that's allowed them. But the Detroit flop at the end that should have been a win. The defense is what we're going to be talking about this week, because it felt like a good offense really would have really given them problems on Monday night in a different, not a field goal way with a gimpy kicker, but in a touchdown, grind it out, can't stop the run kind of way.
I'm going to give the Colts some credit. Frank Reich is a heck of a head coach, Nestor. I thought they had a fantastic game plan. Offensively, they took advantage of the Ravens' quick defense, a lot of misdirection. They passed the ball to the running backs, which they saw Detroit have a success doing. And on the defensive side of the ball, they had a great game plan to try to contain Lamar. They were physical. They came out ready to play. They came out with their hair on fire. But you mentioned Calais Campbell, him flexing for the cameras after the block. He's been a man amongst boys. You met him personally. You've seen his dimensions. He's a huge man, even by football standards.
I've never met Calais. Yeah, he walked by me at the Super Bowl 10 years ago.
But
I know how, I know all of that, but I know he wants to win. That dude, when these people come here, when Justin Houston and the announcers are, Louis Riddick, wow, he turned down more money from Pittsburgh to come. This is why they came here. To be on a team with this kid, to be with a coach who's won a Super Bowl and an organization that knows how to win. And with the bright lights on and the issues hitting the fan and you're getting your ass kicked and you're 30-something years old and you're out there to do it, that finger and that hand, most people on field goals like, what are the chances of you blocking one? Well, Calais Campbell believes, and now everybody else believes.
Not only that, but you have a compound effect of the collateral damage of that block. After a kicker gets a field goal blocked, I would think that gets in his head somewhat, right? So to me, the fact that the kid, I know he was injured, but the fact that he missed, to me, was of no great surprise. We were hoping, but I thought the odds were very good that he would miss a kick. And Calais Campbell is phenomenal. Look, who knew that the Ravens defense was going to face 2017 Carson Wentz, not 2019 and 2020? The guy I believe he had his best passing game statistically of his career. He went over 400 yards. So again, they bend a lot and they didn't break at the end. It was a total team victory. I couldn't be more proud of this team.
Dennis Koulatsos joining us here. He's proud of his team at Coons Ford. Listen, I wore the red Coons shirt today thinking Louisville, because to me, it was like Louisville, Lamar, and for you to say all those checking the boxes that you began your monologue here, all of that would have been said at Louisville, right? Like every single thing, can't do this, can't do that, won't do this, won't do that. And then he went and did it, and every team in the league still passed on him because running an offense in this way. And listen, I'll say this, for all of these quarterbacks now, and I want to talk about Gruden and leadership with you and Urban Meyer too. So don't let me – I will go back to that in a minute. But for all these quarterbacks, Carson Wentz in that offense on Monday night, that offense looked more like Lamar, more like Mahomes. Lamar, but not running. Carson's not going to run. But that rollout, we're going to get everybody mismatched and everybody moving. And I'm going to get my offensive line's not real good, so we're going to get them moving too. because nobody knows what they're doing. And then we're going to play arena football. We're going to play Kurt Warner ball. We're going to play West Coast football, but moving and looking to misdirection and go backwards with the ball. And boy, the Ravens' hips were all over the place defensively in the second quarter watching that. And I called it arena football because that's what I would. It's football in space. It's 7-on-7 to some degree out in space. It's like a flag game. And Wentz is really good at that. I mean, that's what he did at North Dakota. And Reich built Philadelphia for that and then had to go win a Super Bowl with somebody else doing it, Philly special and all that with Foles, which is still, you mentioned Frank Reich and how good he is. Dude, they won a Super Bowl with a backup quarterback. They beat Tom Brady. So, you know, I'm out there watching Carson Wentz do this, and I'm like, everybody, they were betting against Frank Reich since he was backing up in Maryland and backing up in Buffalo and beating your Allers. So, by the way, I texted Rasig last night, and I'll let you go nuts on this, but when I saw Frank Reich dejected walking across, I texted Rasig, and I'm like, finally got even. Finally got even with Frank Reich for that. Took 30 years, but I finally got even with Frank Reich. Speaking of coaches, and you know, we can speak to Lamar checking boxes too, because I threw that at you for Louisville. But the Gruden thing breaking in the middle of all of this, it was a surreal Monday night. I mean, it was just a surreal Monday night of football. It really was.
Well, when the Ravens were getting dominated in the first half, I mean, the bigger story of the two wasn't their bad performance, the poor performance. The biggest story was Gruden stepping down, and the emails and the content of the emails, and the NFL choosing to turn a blind eye to the context because. But
it could have been any coach in the league. It was the coach who's been on Monday Night Football for 10 years. It's crazy.
But what happened to the emails from the Washington football team, that organization? You can't tell me there wasn't some really salacious content and inappropriate in that. But that just shows you that there's a different standard for the owners than it is for the coaches. And I'm by no means giving Gruden a pass here, but you know, you got to be careful what you put in print. But if that's who you are, though, you know what? That's who you are. And you can't say I didn't mean it. You can't say I'm sorry. You did mean it. You did write it, right? This is who you are. I do think that also that money oftentimes changes people, gives them a false sense of power and who they are and how they can treat others. Inexcusable. And the right thing for him was to step down and to apologize.
Well, I don't know how you move forward on that. Who else knows who he insulted? And we'll certainly have fun with this Washington football team speculation and what kind of a man Dan Snyder is, and you know what's in your phone and what you send people and what's in your heart and what gets said when the doors are shut. Man, I go back to Colin Kaepernick, and you know I was on that in the beginning, and what some owners, and some of them are perished. I mean, Bob McNair's dead. He was the one that inmates running the asylum, and Jerry's getting old. I mean, this generational thing of these 70 and 80-year-old people and what's going to be tolerated. And to your point, John Gruden, calling the commissioner names like that on email. I don't know how he thought he was going to survive this. And then there's the tone deafness. Not only that he has Urban Meyer last week, these guys making $10 million a year, getting these gigs, right? But in the aftermath of all of it, how the league looks about hiring practices like my friend Marvin Lewis, who ran a pretty clean ship for 20 years, not clean all the way through with Cincinnati with some of the players there, but certainly, Marvin's reputation. But for any of the minority candidates, I mean, this is messy. And what's messier for me, Dennis, is watching Booger McFarland or any of these state-sponsored NFL employees in some way or another saying, well, the NFL's got end racism on the helmet now, so that should Black Lives Matter, and that should just fix it. We all know that doesn't fix it. And we all know that's not going to change the heart of somebody who's making $10 million a year, has a $100 million guaranteed contract, to say, I've been calling people the F word or the N word or whatever word you want. I've been saying that forever, and I'm impervious, because that's where you feel like you are when you get to that station in life, right? I mean, look at Matt Lauer. He had a button in his room to I mean, at NBC, I mean, it's a crazy amount of power that people think they have in in an environment where it's digital. There's evidence, and it feels like, have you not made that connection?
Well, there's an old adage, I think it goes something like this, Nestor. If you want to see a person's true character, give them power, right? That's when you see what you have. And most people, unfortunately, they use power to push down. Very few use power to pull people up, to pull others up. And that's the difference. And perfect as I am, I've lost friends who have told me racist jokes. To me, there's no place anywhere for that kind of language to come out of a decent human being's mind, because if you espouse, if you condone, if you don't correct someone who's telling you a racist joke, okay, then you're part of the problem. There's nothing funny about racism or putting down people because of their gender or their sexual preference or whatever. It doesn't factor in. He's a coach. His job is to get the team ready to win games. End of story. And be respectful, right? What's good for the beehive, it's good for the bees, right? The beehive, it's the NFL, it's the shield. And as a head coach, you do everything and anything you can to protect your organization and also the shield. And if this is who he is, he should have nothing to do with professional sports of any type.
That is Koulatsos with some strong words. He's at Coons Ford. You can find him Thursday, 3 to 5 here, and of course on Sunday before the game. Got a 1 o'clock game this week, right? Chargers. Look, we could talk about the Chargers now because we're 4-1 and we won and a short week and all that. I mean, Luke was talking about the Chargers before we were losing by 3 touchdowns on Monday night. But boy, Chargers look good, and this is a hell of a game, right? I mean, it's a big game. This is the kind of game you'd look at and say these teams might see again in January. And this is a quarterback that I think we're all looking forward to seeing play.
It's such a week-to-week league, Nestor, where anything can happen. Thanks to you, and I was watching the NFL Red Zone, and I saw the Chargers and the Browns going back and forth last Sunday, and it was an epic game. The Chargers have played some great games lately, but no way to handicap this league. Like Luke, I thought we'd win by 2 touchdowns. Didn't happen. We can speculate what's going to happen with the Chargers game, but until they tee it up, who knows? They have to come from the West Coast to the East Coast. Does that matter? Does that factor in? I don't think so. They're very well coached. We get to see Herbert, right? Justin Herbert, who's just an amazing quarterback. And I'm just looking forward to the competition and to the matchup.
Well, I'm looking forward to the powder blue. If I wear
Love
that
the
this week,
uniforms.
well, I got my Coons, my powder blue over here. I'm going to call it Oiler blue for now.
Well,
so
let me ask you this: do you like the Rams uniforms too? Is it the yellow and blue, the gold and blue? What do we like about those uniforms? I like the Rams uniforms as well.
No, I don't know. It's something about the Derrick and the blue and the red
Okay.
when I was 5 years old that struck me. But it, like Lansdowne High School always had that color, right? So
Okay.
I would see the color scheme. I was Kelly green and gold at Dundalk, but I don't feel any affinity for the Packers. You know what I mean? I will say this while we're talking about uniforms. I don't like the purple and black. I didn't, and I really didn't like it. We're losing by 3 touchdowns, but I looked at it and it's Northwestern to me. It looks too collegiate to me. It looks too whack, too, USFL-ish. It doesn't look appropriate to me. It looks like it's more pajamas than it is business for me.
Well, speaking of uniform, this pains me to no end. I think the Colts uniform is the best looking uniform in the NFL, hands down. I always thought that. That was part of the heartbreak that we experienced back in 1983. And looking at the
first
uniform,
girlfriend. It's like the girl I saw in 7th grade. She's still beautiful on Facebook. You know what I mean? You look and you're like, that was my first love. Literally.
Yep.
Right?
Love the colors. Love the color scheme. Love the original Baltimore Colts. But still to this day, despise anything that has to do with Indianapolis and that organization.
I made nice with some Indianapolis folks in the press box on.
You're not nicer than I am. You're a nicer person than I am. I've always known that.
I might even, and I'll throw this out as a little plug. Jim Irsay is bringing his rock and roll collection to DC in a couple of weeks. I might be invited to a special thing. I won't bring you. I mean, you don't need to see Ringo's drums
what? I would quickly pass that invitation as lucrative as it is. I want to have to say, hell no.
Hail to the no.
Oh no, not a shot. Not a shot. I don't want to be in in the picture, in the frame with
Tell
that kind of stuff.
our audience, our special relationship. You've supported me for a long, long time and helped me feed my family. But I have invited you very, very kindly because you love the college game.
Combine.
I've invited you to Indianapolis. How many years did 5 or 6 years?
Every
I'm like,
year.
Come with us. We get a room. We kind of hang out and we walk around. It's cold as hell, but you'll run into John Gruden if you want. You could say something to him, and you're like, nah, it's in Indianapolis. I'm not going. I mean, basically,
Well,
literally.
well, you know what? If I ran into Jimmy Irsay, I would tell him 2 words, and they wouldn't be happy birthday. Like you, I thought I was over it or getting over it, but again,
It would
see
begin
that
with an F and not be farewell.
correct. That is correct. That is 100% accurate.
And that's why you want to buy a car from Dennis. Get out to Coons Ford.
It is what it is.
He's still mad at Indianapolis, and we beat him on Monday. So all cars half price this week at Coons Ford. Stop out and see him 3 until 5. He'll be here on Thursday. Get out of here before I get you in trouble.
All right, sir. Appreciate it. Thanks so
The
much.
Koulatsos Show. You can find him. All of our wise conversations can be found out at Baltimore Positive. Luke is in Owings Mills for the short week, getting ready for the Chargers. Of course, we got the Bengals next week as well. All brought to you by our friends at Royal Farms. Real fresh, real fast. And Haloti Nada was eating chicken in the second half on my television. I almost ran out to the Key Highway location. I am Nestor. We are WNST, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore. We never stop talking Baltimore sports.